Hi, I'm Nikki. This is my story. I came to the Great Falls Rescue Mission approximately 3.5 years ago. At that time, I had accepted Christ. I was here for a reunification with my children, which was a success. I shortly thereafter moved out and found myself back in the world, unprepared and unwilling to accept any help that was given me. My pride wouldn't allow it. I found myself lost once again and called back to the mission. I started living back here in 2019, the end of 2018. I had been sober for almost a year at that time, but that did not save me, so to speak. I ended up relapsing, found myself in an unhealthy relationship, and once again trying to save somebody of my own strength, trying to help them get better. Something had to change. I wasn't able to move forward in my life. I had a lot of regrets, a lot of emotional trauma that I was still lugging around throughout this whole life. I've been just trying to help others, but I couldn't seem to help myself. I had remembered when I came here the first time, that feeling of knowing that I was loved, knowing that God had a plan for me. I wanted that. I wanted to know what it was. I wanted to know what He had planned for me. And even just understand what it was to love myself and forgive myself for not accepting the help when it was there. So I decided after living here for 4 months that I was going to answer the call of being in the discipleship, which I had wanted to do many years ago, but again, it just didn't happen that way. God's way, so much better. So here I am, 16 months later after the discipleship. God's been with me the whole time. His voice has been the loudest amongst all other in my life. He's allowed me to be honest with myself. Hebrews 4:12 was what really did it for me. I couldn't keep any secrets anymore. I had to admit to myself that God wanted more for me. More than I could do for myself or anybody else. And I had to trust that He was right, that I was deserving, that I was enough. Over the past 16 months, I found myself unlike any other. I was set apart. I was loved, mentored. People put their whole time into me. A real love, a love like I'd never known. I had real friends. I found myself able to see my life in such a way that it wasn't a big drop off, that there were going to be disappointments. But there's also such great joy in knowing that God's been there the whole time, and He will continue to be. He's a God of restoration. I have a relationship with everyone in my family. Something 3.5 years ago I couldn't count on. I had just messed up too badly, and that wasn't true. I was able to find forgiveness for my mother and from my mother. I was able to see His grace in my mother's life at the end of her last moments here on earth. And I just feel so honored and blessed to know that that was possible because of Jesus, because of what God has planned for me. God didn't want me to stay where I was in this unhappy revolving door of hardship and grief over all the people that I couldn't save, that I couldn't change, because I couldn't do any of those things for myself even. But God can. God has. Things didn't magically just become better all at once overnight. Yeah, they got better. I've gotten better at dealing with things. I've gotten better at realizing that God does have a plan and that it requires me to keep getting up, to keep striving forward, and to stand, as He says, to stand in His truth and to stay in faith. There are some things in my family that I will have to deal with for the rest of my life, as well as they will. I jokingly said, there's ripples, but sometimes it feels like a riptide. But I know that God is equipping me to be able to give to my children and to anybody I encounter what God's given to me, which is a professed devotion to Him as He has to me. The one thing that I can say that I learned in this entire 16 months is that I don't have to run. And there's no reason to hide. And I can find joy in knowing that His promises are true.